Imagine a world without colossal stadiums, no roaring crowds seated on gleaming stands, no cameras capturing triumphant athletes mid-victory. Instead, picture a dry, dusty plain surrounded by olive groves where the summer sun scorches the earth. The air is thick with dust and the heavy scent of sacrifice, while thousands gather under the open sky, all united for one purpose: the games. This is where it all began. Olympia, ancient Greece, a place where mortals sought to prove themselves under the watchful gaze of the gods, and legends were born. But why here, on this plain in southern Greece? Why did an event so extraordinary emerge during an era defined by war, political rivalry, and myth? To understand the origins of the Olympics, we must step back in time, all the way back to the 8th century BCE, when mythology, religion, and sport were inseparable threads in the tapestry of Greek life. The first games, historians tell us, began in 776 BCE. At least, this is the year etched into the records of antiquity. But as with most great beginnings, the truth is tangled in myth. One story tells of Zeus himself, the king of the gods, after defeating his father Cronus in a cosmic battle for control, declared Olympia sacred in his honor. Here, at the altar of Zeus, the first athletic competitions were held as an act of divine tribute. Another myth credits Heracles, the son of Zeus and a hero of immeasurable strength, with founding the games. It is said Heracles measured the length of the stadion, roughly 600 feet, with his own steps, setting the standard for races to come. But whether myth or reality, one thing is clear: the Olympic Games were not simply sports. They were sacred rituals. Olympia itself, nestled in the lush, fertile plains of Elis, was more than just a venue. It was a sanctuary. At its heart stood the Temple of Zeus, a colossal masterpiece of art and devotion. Inside it sat a statue of Zeus so grand, so lifelike, that it became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Crafted from ivory and gold, the seated Zeus held a scepter in one hand and a figure of Nike, the goddess of victory, in the other. Before the games commenced, athletes, priests, and spectators alike would make offerings at this temple. Sacrifices were made to seek favor from the gods. This was not just sport, it was divine theater. The sacred competitions were a marvel to behold. Imagine the scene: thousands of men gathered under the scorching summer sun, cloaked in nothing but the sheen of polished olive oil glistening on their skin. Yes, they competed nude, an image that may shock us today, but to the Greeks, it was a reflection of their ideals: physical perfection, virtue, and excellence. The games were not just contests of strength. They embodied arete, the pursuit of excellence. Brutal and unforgiving, the stadium sprint. The competitions were brutal and unforgiving, tests of physical strength, mental resilience, and sheer willpower. The stadion, a short sprint, was the event that ignited the games. Picture this: runners crouch at the starting line, their muscles taut and ready. A signal pierces the air, and they explode forward, their bare feet thundering against the packed earth. The crowd roars as the winner crosses the line, his name forever etched into the records of history. Then came wrestling, a contest of raw strength and cunning. There were no weight classes, no elaborate rules, only the primal challenge of pinning your opponent to the ground, forcing him to submit. It was gritty, unrelenting, and a true test of dominance. But the most brutal of all events was pankration, a mix of wrestling and boxing where anything was allowed. Picture 2 men locked in combat, their muscles straining, their faces marked with blood and sweat. Bones were broken, opponents were choked into unconsciousness, and the only rules, no biting and no eye gouging, seemed almost laughable in the chaos. The crowd gasped and cheered as one man finally raised his hand in surrender, or was left motionless on the ground. And then there was the spectacle of the chariot race, a deadly, breathtaking display of speed and skill. Teams of horses charged around the hippodrome, their hooves pounding against the earth as dust billowed into the air. The creaking of wheels and the shouts of drivers echoed across the plain. Crashes were common, the stakes were high, and survival itself was a victory. For the ultimate test of an athlete, there was the pentathlon, a grueling combination of 5 events: running, long jump, javelin, discus, and wrestling. To win the pentathlon was to be crowned as the greatest of all competitors, a symbol of strength, versatility, and discipline. These were the very qualities the Greeks revered above all. But the Olympics were not only about competition, they were about something much greater. Before every festival, a sacred truce, known as ekecheiria, was declared. City-states, often embroiled in bloody wars, would lay down their weapons. Armies paused, enemies became competitors, and warriors walked as free men to Olympia. Rivalries were cast aside as athletes, spectators, and emissaries traveled safely to honor Zeus and celebrate human excellence. Imagine that for a moment. Cities that had fought bitter battles would sit side by side in the stands, watching their champions compete. It was a fragile peace, but a powerful one, and perhaps the greatest legacy of the ancient Olympics. And then there was the moment of victory. An honor unlike any other. The prize was simple: a wreath of wild olive leaves cut from a sacred tree near the temple of Zeus. There were no gold medals or trophies. Yet to the Greeks, this humble crown carried immeasurable weight. Victors returned to their city-states as heroes. Statues were carved in their image, poets sang songs of their triumphs, and their names were remembered for generations. Some were even granted lifelong privileges, like free meals and high honors. But the true reward was kleos, eternal glory. To win at Olympia was to transcend mortality, to achieve something divine. It was to become a legend. For nearly 12 centuries, the Olympic Games continued, evolving with time. But as Greece fell under Roman rule, its traditions began to fade. Gladiatorial games and Roman spectacles crept into the program. The ancient sanctity of the Games was eroded, and in 393 CE, the Emperor Theodosius I, a devout Christian, abolished the Olympics, condemning them as a pagan ritual. And so, Olympia fell silent. For centuries, the ruins of this once glorious place lay buried beneath layers of earth, forgotten by time. But history is never truly lost. In the 19th century, archaeologists began to unearth the ancient site, rediscovering the secrets of Olympia. It was this rebirth that inspired a Frenchman, Pierre de Coubertin, to reimagine the Games for the modern world. And in 1896, after centuries of silence, the Olympic Games were reborn in Athens, Greece. A new generation of athletes lit the flame, linking their triumphs to those of the ancient world. Today, that flame still burns, a direct connection to the sacred fires of Olympia, a symbol of unity and hope. The story of the Olympics is more than a tale of sport. It is a story of humanity's spirit, of striving for greatness, of coming together as one, and of reaching beyond our limits. From the dusty plains of ancient Olympia to the dazzling arenas of today, the Olympics remind us of what we can achieve when we compete not as rivals, but as a global family. So, the next time you watch the Games, remember where it all began: a sacred truce, a dusty plain, and a flame that has never been extinguished. The first Olympics were more than a series of competitions. They were the heartbeat of ancient Greece, where gods and mortals shared the same stage. It was here that heroes became legends, and victory meant eternal glory. But the spirit of the Games didn't stop there. It transcended time, survived the fall of empires, and inspired the modern world. If you've enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join us here on The Histique. We bring history to life, one story at a time. And for those who can't get enough of the past, stay tuned for our next video, The Day the World Discovered America. a story of explorers, bravery, and a moment that changed the course of human history forever. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next chapter of the Histique.